I was a hospital corpsman. That's medic in the Army. I was assigned to the USS Repose, a hospital ship assigned duty off the coast of Vietnam, taking wounded, giving aid. We'd been on R&R in a port in Hong Kong, and our last night there, I broke the law. The UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. My best friend, KC, a man I went to boot camp with and court school, and even been in country with, as well as the ship, caught me. It was late. We took the boat back to the ship, and he cornered me in a dark part of the ship on deck, and he slapped me around. He didn't slap me around. He beat the shit out of me. Down in the quarters, after we'd gone back on station, I was sitting there off duty thinking, am I going to go to Leavenworth? I'm going to get a dishonorable discharge. And then suddenly there was a crackle overhead. The ship's PA system came on, and the captain was talking directly to us. Normally, he'd get some sort of introduction. It was protocol, but he spoke directly to us, and he said, the USS Forrestal is experiencing a major accident. There are explosions and fire, and there's massive casualties. The USS Repose is now heading towards the Tonkin Gulf to offer aid and assistance. All off-duty personnel, hospital, and ship's crew report to the Gedunk area. It was July 1967. I reported up there, and there was a big gaggle of men there waiting, some medical, some ship's crew, and then in came the captain and the head nurse, and they divvied us up. KC and I got assigned to a group that was going to go over to the Forrestal. Others were sent downstairs to empty the cold storage lockers. Don't worry about spoilage, they said. Then we were told that there would be incoming wounded, and so another team was put together, and then there was a small group that were scattered throughout the ship. As we headed over on the chopper that was taking the 7 of us, I think, you could see the Forrestal. It was just coming dawn, and black smoke was pouring out of its fantail. The aft part of the ship had burned. There was no flame, but a big billow of smoke. It had weight. It had substance. I almost expected it to roar. As we got closer, I could smell it. Napalm, naphthol, gasoline, diesel, maybe the chemicals of some bombs. I could smell it. I can smell it. Can you? We landed, and the head corpsman said, all right, all the wounded have already gone up through other carriers. They're headed to Japan. We sent the real critical already over to your ship. You're going to help us round up the dead. I went with a team then through the darkened corridors. There was just white lights and red battery fixtures giving off eerie, weird light. And as we walked through the areas to get to the crew's quarters that I was assigned to, the shadows had ghosts in them of the men that had died, and they were waiting to go home. The water was about a foot off the ground, and it was a sheen of oil, and it glistened beautifully. I felt like I was walking on clouds. In the crew's quarters, one area was collapsed, and it was Goddard Dameron come to life. I went to an area where there was a bunch of collapsed racks, and I started lifting them one by one. And then I came to him. There was a sailor that had been obviously sleeping when the gas poured down and burned him instantly. He was still like this, laying with his arms across his head. It's the way I sleep sometime. Casey and I bagged him into the aptly called body bag, and we carried the sleeping sailor up to the deck to join the other dead, and we put him on a chopper. 126 men died that day. And we took them over to the repos, the beautiful white pearl on the sea, the Angel of the Orient. It became a morgue. As we got on the ship, we drug the bodies through the hallways, and there was an elevator, but it was full most of the time with more bodies beyond the maximum capacity. Took them into those cold storage lockers where the food was already spoiling out on the deck. I was instructed to get surgical instruments, scalpels and chest spreaders and anything that could be used. And I brought it in, and there the 15 of us stood around as a chief with a cigar all wet and chewed up in front of his nose. I realized he did that so that he didn't have to smell the already rotting bodies. He said, you're going to take these. We got to get them home. Find any tags, dog tags. But the real thing is teeth. We need the teeth plotted. You're going to take this chart, and in two-man teams, you're going to get down and plot the teeth. These scalpels, for any jaw that isn't opening, you're to cut from ear to mouth and ear to mouth. And these chest spreaders, you're going to use it to break open the jaw so you can get in there and get that teeth. We all stood there in shock. And then he whispered, I know what we're asking you to do, but it's the only way to get them home. I went to that place in your head, you know that one, right? The one where you don't think. And all I could think of was, my shipmates need me. My shipmates need me. And I went to work. It was about a night and a half, and we went up to Da Nang, and on the pier there at White Elephant Landing, we pulled up, and there was a bunch of white refrigerator trucks waiting for them. And the submarines came aboard and was taking them off. And I stood on deck watching the scene. And then as I started to drive away, I realized somebody was behind me. I turned around, and KC was standing there watching the same scene I was. And he said, I don't know what they call you, homo, queer, whatever. I know nothing about you except that you're supposed to be pussies or not really men. But I fell out after 3 of those pots. And I saw you do 20. You're no pussy to me. You're more of a man than most of the people I know. You're a goddamn hero. I stood looking at him, just stunned. Then he turned around and began to walk away. And I said, gay. I call myself gay.